And thou who tells me to forget, thy looks are wan, thine eyes are wet.
The Burial of Lord Byron. With the tap of knife to glass, his grace rose, clutching the letter, spoke in disbelief to the silent ceremonial dinner of the beaver hunt. Grave news, gentlemen. Lord Byron has died in Greece. An audible gasp descended into deeper silence, held until a disembodied voice behind the flicker of candelabras spoke. I stood in Venice on the Bridge of Sighs. Darkness concealed who responded. A palace and a prison on each hand. Fox, hunter and hound forgotten. Squires repeated singly and in groups lines in eulogy for the dead poet. Leaving the ancestral hall, some glanced skywards, seeking a new, bright-tailed comet to reflect their newly mapped constellation of the literary dead. Sails flapped and cracked on mast and spar, bellied out to whistles, orders, rope shanties, as the Florida beat upstream from Gravesend. Hobhouse, thinly filmed in spray, leaned his forehead on the flag-draped coffin as paroxysms of grief racked his body. No more to the pugilistic arts at Gentleman Jim's. No more to the gaming or the gin parlours in dandy black coat and dun breeches with jewelled stock. Silver-top stick to suckle and stab, emphasize each exuberant flight of fancy. No more ribald cuts at countess or courtesan, or sub voce comment to the select few on boys. How exemplary chastity at home was to give way in hard beds with sharp insects to a profligate desire. Corinth, Delphi, Thebes, Athens and Constantinople, the whole divan replete. Almonds and sugared sherbet, fruit and sweetmeats from a remorseless tyrant who roasted, massacred, impaled opponents, exemplified the Orient. Greece in her age of woe, first glimpsed in subjugation from snowbound passes of Albania. Annabella divined me, contagions linked to past profligacy. You showed her that fair lock of choir boy hair, presumed female, made comparisons, swimming with brandy and laudanum through regions of ice humor, pistols loaded at the bedside. I am surely in hell. The taper burning red through curtained marriage bed, black moves, a raging storm, breaking and burning, severed all connections except half-sister Augusta, soft, gentle, supportive, though incestuous. Annabella found your disard. Now the logic of her mathematical brain cut exactly to the equation, your craved return to that region of unrestricted desires. Virtue risked, marriage an experiment in abuse. She took the infant daughter, silently crossed the threshold of your room where the hound slept, left you blasted as Satan. Hobhouse, the last to shake hands on English soil with Byron, pursued by bailiffs, dreading social death, recalled his cap, waved from the stern as the Dover packet, released from its moorings, bounded off with full sails on a curling wave from the pier head. The unpaid-for Napoleonic coach lashed to the decks. A reverie disturbed by Lion, Byron's Newfoundland dog, skittering about the deck, now laying its head at his feet. John Murray's letter could not soften Dr. Ireland, Dean of Westminster, charming, charitable, and chaste as any society hostess. His soiree of the illustrious dead would not be disturbed by this interloper. Doors to the Abbey and Poets' Corner firmly closed with the advice, carry away the body, say as little about it as possible. No state barges, without solemn music. 6 Thames watermen silently rowed the undertaker's barge to palace yard stairs as silent crowds lined the Thames. He lay in state at Great George Street, room and coffin decently hung with black, Byron arms hastily daubed onto a deal board, uproar audible as constables fought to control waiting crowds. A candlelit room, odor of bodies, perfumes, burning wax, a lingering trace of alcohol. Trembling, Hobhouse viewed the corpse, confounded by an apparent stranger. Celebrated dark curls were grey, receded from the temples, mouth distorted, at the point of uttering the famed sardonic laugh. Those white teeth, his pride, blackened as a mummer's face from the alcohol he'd wallowed in all the way from Greece. Worst of all, red cavalry mustachios grown for war added colour to the natural pallor of his face, as if he'd come boxed, ready to reanimate, the comic villain in a farce. Bright and sunlit, the morning bustled with undertakers, straining horses, riotous crowds, as the hearse left Westminster adorned with 8 sable plumes. Its following carriage held 3 urns for heart, brain and intestines. Lungs used to speak of freedom were left in Greece. Hobhouse bore with dignity a funeral shallow with mean and pompous intent, antithesis of natural emotion. 47 empty carriages, emblazoned with escutcheoned crests, followed the coffin, confirmed the alienation of his own class. The mob followed in deep mourning dress. Upper sash windows poised like guillotines, filled with bobbing mop caps, whilst damp handkerchiefs waved over the passing coffin. At the corner of Great George Street, a woman sat with bent head in her barouche, sobbing. On Oxford Street, John Clare stood with staff in hand, back on back amongst the crowds, come to see a great sunset. His sea of waking dreams falls like moon and tide between the landscape of his birth and this great city where lords extolled his verse. He observed the crowd with country eyes, an interpreter of distant weather, tree, field and flower. Progress of the hearse marked by the flutter of white lace along the upper casements as doves exercise their wings about the dovecote. Drawn by the dark beauty of a young girl as she sighed and spoke, poor Lord Byron. He caught with empathy the edge of romance, heaved his heart, gave future value to the dead poet's work. The hearse suddenly upon them took the summer sun, shaded and presaged the shipwreck Byron would make of his persona. As a snake sheds its skin, so Clare would rave, shout, strut, posture and impersonate. Use Childe Harold and Don Juan against women and the world within the cruel confines of his prison. all passed as a cloud. The young girl dried her tears. Satisfied, Byron would have his place of merit, despite the reverend and the moral. John Clare hitched his pack, strolled on. Enraged by the dispute with his publisher, young George Borrow emerged red-faced onto Oxford Street, head down. Failed to notice closed shops, a crowded street and windows. Presumed a handsome thief made his last way to Tyburn Tree. Only as the hearse approached, he asked a dapper shopman, "Mortal relics of Lord Byron, great poet, sir." Borrow marked the 3 morning coaches, counted the 47 empty, then considered Milton in his blindness and poverty, Otway starving, Butler consigned to bailiffs, all holding faith with that presumed belief, fame after death. Would Childe Harold and Don Juan suffice? "I too write in the Byronic mode," continued the dapper shopman, "and frequently I am unhappy." Off the stones of the city at St. Pancras, mourners descended, empty escutcheon coaches returned to stabling. Alone, the hearse advanced on Highgate Hill. Mary Shelley pulled back the lace. Jane Williams, at her elbow, watched this advance. Heat of a cloudless July day, 6 Clydesdales nod heads, mouths foam, black flanks streaked with dust, steam and glisten in sunlight, heave his dead weight uphill. Hardly a friend, Mary mused, but I am connected with him in 1,000 ways, not least his kindness on my sudden entry into widowhood. Yet in Pisa, the diplomacy of the sexes relegated us to mere observers of his male power. Exclusive dinners, shooting matches, drinking sessions, and literary discussions. Youth still preserves people in your heart forever. Again, I hear 2 inseparable voices close to the fire at Diodati. Byron's effete, dandified drawl. Percy's higher voice, squeaky with excitement, discuss primeval life, electric stimulation of the dead, Gothic tales. Those daily boat trips across the lake, Byron's Tyrolean hymn at sunset in harmony with wind and waves. Claire going to the villa at dusk to give herself to him. After their quarrel, secret boys hovering in twilight. Whispers of darkness would speak entirely to him in Venice, with the full heat of the inferno. At Diodati, the hideous progeny was born, not out of a void, but from the chaos of imagination in dark and shapeless dreams. This, when death and grief were but words, before I was cast upon shoals of despair. Then beauty was on his countenance, power beamed from his eyes. There he goes, his coffin as a log tossed upon a turbulent stream. Last of my youth to people the grave. We shall not see their kind again. She let fall the lace. They sat in silence on the sofa with a pot of tea, a restrained tear in the eye. Outside the apothecary's shop, Coleridge received the illicit phial of laudanum into cold and clammy hands, fumbled secretively with waistcoat pocket. Concealment coincided with the hearse topping Highgate Hill, brought hat to heart, bent grey head, watched intently coffin approach and pass, stepped into the rising cloud of dust, right hand raised in benediction. You called me drunkard! How I wish it had been so. We too have borne so much since childhood, both fatherless, your deformed foot cruelly forced into braces, a lame boy briefly the toast of literary London, then marriage. What company you have here. Dante, Milton and myself can each testify how discord and art are congruent beings. The deep shame of such intimate failure, whilst desire still fuels imagination, self-loathing, loss of children. To a life blighted as frost on bud, you added exile, sharpener of that sense of absent home, whetstone to the cut of misery. From this child Harold came. On wings of imagination came also Don Juan, intelligible, made for state. These creatures you took in, housed from storms of intellect, not only out of charity and loneliness, but out of deep love of language. Yet still you roved. Bards and statesmen are unquiet things. Stir the soul's springs, often fools to those they fool. Such ambition, hubris and the weight of earth recoiled upon you. The spirit harbourless, an island everywhere inaccessible into which you are departed, throned amongst guardians to the armoury of language. Hearse, a distant speck, tremulous fingers touched waistcoat pocket and slowly replaced his hat. A summer fever took her on the May news of Byron's death, held her until that open carriage ride on a hot July day. From beneath her parasol, she watched the hearse pass under the walls of Brocket Hall for Welwyn. Told it was Byron, Lady Caroline collapsed. Fevered, she found his company. He slithered from the canopied apex of her four-poster, fixed her with a cruel eye, and ground his teeth. Opened the curtained bed, sneered haughtily, trumpeted, false to husband, a fiend to me! Waves of passionate submission opened her limbs, then terror of his wrath made her crouch, whine like a chained dog, cling to the bedposts. As the fever subsided, heard sarcastic laughter from beneath the bed, until his snores mixed with hers. In the weakened stillness of morning, she took out the rose and carnation he brought her, waltzed and quadrilled in memory, recollected those 9 months he devoted to her, writing up to 10 times a day. Knew his love to have been beyond virtue, beyond beliefs, beyond all worldly prospects. The knife she wielded had struck deep into both hearts. Above all that is new, that is rare, she had been loved and still loved. But there was also hatred from having loved too well. His madness had been not so much of the head as the heart. Burning him in effigy with book, ring and chain was no expiation. He remained fixed, a thing of dark imaginings which not even death would separate from her. No sculptor had ever produced a face or form so finely wrought. Woman by nature cherished every soft word spoken, became enslaved with innocent affection. Beyond ambition, forgiving envy, without thought of revenge, she wrote to Murray, pleaded that her letters to him, so sharp, so venomous as to fuel a novel, might be destroyed. For now Byron lay beyond the clutches of any other woman. A rider carrying his coronet on a gold-tasseled cushion led the procession out of Nottingham. He had spoken against their oppression, condemned the slavery of poverty, declared a wish to see all men free. From every lane and alley, from garret and cellar, they came in his support, not in the black of mourning, but in a sadness of the heart at the passing of a champion who gave the voiceless a voice. Behind the hearse and mourning coach, their mayor and aldermen, stately with staffs of office. A quarter-mile column moved with quiet and slow solemnity through Papelwick and Linby, ever growing, skirted Newstead, its mansion, lucid lake, and Gothic windowless arch, hollow as his body. Hob House noted at Hucknall Torkard, stark contrast between coffin, urn, coronet, and the squat simplicity of the church mourners fought through crowds to enter. After the service, he who might have been buried with national pomp on the Acropolis was lowered into a crowded 6-foot cube. his lead-lined coffin squarely on the wicked fifth lord. Those below, splintered in a cascade of ancestral bones.